terms of larger centers who are trying to do more of these advanced therapies, we're already somewhat doing that historically with bone marrow transplants. Typically, allogeneic bone marrow transplant is done at very defined centers. And that is mainly due to the regulatory as well as the specialization of those centers and being able to deliver that kind of therapy. As technology's improved, we've seen it, spread out a little bit more, but overall, I think that the main answer to delivering, at least early on, some of these novel therapies is to have centers that are experienced not only with delivering the therapies, but the regulations behind them. They have the pre-existing infrastructure and staffing to be able to do it safely, and the experience in translational sciences to be able to do it safely and also understand the mechanisms by which they're working. So for the time being, I definitely see major centers being centers of excellence being the answer to a lot of these questions. Although science, technology will help us evolve and potentially even get this into more of a community setting. Although I think for the foreseeable future, we're going to be stuck with larger centers who are delivering these types of therapies because of the specialization. So I think the sky's the limit right now. We used to have cars, and then we had trucks, and then we have backpacks, and now we have allogeneic, we have autologous, we've got armored cars. I think right now technology is allowing us to develop things that we never could have dreamed of 3 or 4 years ago. And ultimately, I think the next steps are going to be to, one, improve on the efficacy that we're seeing. We're seeing, for leukemia, anywhere between 50 and 80% of long-term durability and around 40% for lymphoma. And I think the goal is going to be to, one, to improve the efficacy that we're seeing, 2, decrease toxicity, which will enable more patients to receive these types of therapies, and 3, start combining them with different manufacturing processes or allogeneic approaches to make it more of an off-the-shelf situation. So I think this is going a lot of different directions right now, but right now we're focusing on understanding how these therapies are working, mechanisms of resistance, and that will just help us design the next generation of therapies to come. And this goes back to one of the first questions of whether centers of excellence are going to be the ones best suited to deliver these types of therapies. And I can definitely say that they're going to be the types of centers that are going to advance these types of therapies. The things that we're working on at Mass General include a cellular immunotherapy program that will cover all types of cellular immunotherapy, whether it be TCR-based, allogeneic, autologous, CAR-based, TILs, anything you can think of that has an immune or cell mechanism of action we're using. And by doing so, we're incorporating multiple different disease specialties, whether it be leukemia, transplant, myeloma, lymphoma. We also have trials in hepatocellular through the GI clinic and melanoma for solid tumors, and trying to really share the knowledge that we've learned in one disease center across to other disease centers. And so in doing so, using the learnings from various groups of people to really develop a cellular immunotherapy program that can advance that. In doing so, we're also developing dedicated outpatient and inpatient services to make sure that we're doing appropriate biobanking, we're following the regulatory compliance, and again, we're sharing that knowledge across all aspects and all different disease centers. I can also say on the back end, the next thing we're working on and have developed through someone named Kathleen Gallagher, she's our immune monitoring lab director. We have dedicated laboratory space for both processing patient samples, as well as analyzing immune correlatives, cytokines, expansion data, phenotyping, including RNA-seq at the single cell level. So we really want to be an engine that not only provides commercial products and helps with industry-sponsored therapies, but also are able to develop an understanding of how they're working and moving towards that next generation we were just speaking of. Yeah, this is a very big question. A lot of insurers are following bone marrow transplant workflows, and now that we have an FDA-approved or multiple FDA-approved therapies in the U.S., it's following much more like a drug approval, where specialty pharmacies are in some instances going through the approval process. So it's a little bit of a new paradigm where I think the regulators are learning how to adapt, and I think the insurers are also learning how to change their workflows and how to educate their staff to understand that this is just not a pill that a specialty pharmacy will deliver. So I think clinicians are going to be best suited to explain the nuances and to help advocate for the patients, and one, getting approval for these types of therapies, but two, helping the field as a whole advance and move faster for both approvals at the insurance levels, but also helping from an economic standpoint us understand the impact of what it really means to cure somebody who had previously relapsed refractory disease.